One of the biggest obstacles that people have to actually getting results with healing and health, and that they're really missing these foundational pieces, right? You got to get that health consciousness, whole foods basis, but then you need to like get your detoxification system optimized and your digestion going, and so you can absorb that nutrition. And what I find that people do in this society is they just try to throw supplements at things, or just like, think one superfood is, going to make a difference, when I think it's these foundation things need to be in place for people to be able to actually get their vital healing capacity in unblocked, so that it can do what it was naturally designed to do. And most of our health issues are because we are either completely deficient in the resources we need to create health, or we are blocked in some way because of like needing to detox. And that you have to put those two together, and then when you do, that's when you really get everything moving. And also that stress component, right? Because we have to have all the resources we need nutritionally and get our detoxification pathways open, but we also need to get in out of the state of fight or flight, freeze and fawn, into a state where we are in rest, digest, and heal, because that's what the body requires in order to do what it's designed to do, which is to be healthy. So my journey to natural health started when I was in aesthetic school, and the instructor told us to go to the health food store to get some evening primrose oil so we could have healthy and beautiful hair, skin, and nails. And I discovered after taking the supplement, because I left it at school, that suddenly every single day, an hour after I took evening primrose oil, I would look up at the clock and I would suddenly feel this like sense of sunniness inside of me, which is something I wasn't used to feeling. I had depression, paranoia, anxiety, in raging PMS my whole entire like teenagehood. And so I, was always like in a negative perspective. And I just was completely amazed by this supplement. So I did some research. This was like, in the early, mid 90s, when the internet was hardly a thing, but there was enough there that I could find that evening primrose oil had a history of Indigenous women eating the seeds when they felt overwhelmed with motherhood, and that the essential fatty acids were essential for helping your hormones to be balanced. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. And that was my first introduction to natural health. Now, while I had been going to the health food store to get the evening primrose oil, at this point I hadn't changed anything about my diet, just the primrose oil. And this woman was telling me the story about how she was the person that was running the the health food store. She was 8 months pregnant, told me she had been diagnosed with endometriosis, and her husband was a naturopath, and he had helped her to restore her fertility. So, that was like planting a seed in my mind that just because a doctor says that something is incurable, that doesn't mean it's true. So a few months later or so, I ended up getting diagnosed with mono. And because of hearing this woman's story, I was like, okay, I need to go back to this woman because maybe there's something that she can offer to help me. So she basically opened up prescriptions for nutritional healing and, basically sold me everything I could afford at 30% off to basically help me out, because she really cared about people and their health. And I bought the supplements. I went home. I transformed my kitchen overnight from the standard North American diet to a whole foods diet. I basically put everything together to support the mental, emotional, spiritual side of things. And within 2 weeks, I felt 70% better. And I never missed a day of work. And then from that moment on, I just spent my days and nights in coffee shops and libraries, just learning about nutrition, everything possible that I could learn, because I basically found my passion through getting sick. And so I believe that that is a very crucial part of the journey for people, is to recognize that when our health goes off, that's telling us that something is out of alignment in our life, and it's an opportunity to use this challenge as a catalyst for transformation. So that's what it was for me. It was the negative thing that I had to go through, getting sick, to coming out the other side of it, finding my purpose. And over the next 6 months or so, the little other things that I had left, they also went away as well. Like, for example, I had been having like chronic yeast infections and like acne and things like that, and like 6 months later it was all gone. And then I went from there and got into cleansing and everything after that. And I've just never stopped studying and learning. And my passion has never left me throughout the years. My experience with coaching began after I got my first certification in holistic nutrition in 2006. And I went on to take more training in another holistic nutrition college here in Canada. And then went on to become an instructor at that school. So I taught there for 7 years. So I have a lot of experience with coaching individuals to teaching classrooms, teaching in the college when they had a branch like before COVID, and then teaching online after that. My passion is to teach people nutrition and health and well-being. And these are the modes that I like to do it in, is to connect with people on the heart level and like inspire them to believe in themselves and to educate. So the reason that I believe in this work is because I believe that our body has the capacity to heal itself as long as it has the resources that it needs and is not bombarded by toxicity. And that is, not just on the physical level, right? We can talk about nutrition and environment and things like that, but also on the spiritual level, right? Because there's that toxicity can come from, internally generated toxins, from negative emotions, from food that's not digested properly, from, what we take in through our skin, to toxic relationships, to, being in jobs that people hate. Like, all these things are sources of toxicity. That it's not just physical, that it's like, it is the physical, nutritional, and the detoxification processes, but it's also the spiritual side of things that is part of the healing process. And that healing is truly an opportunity to transform our life. And that's when our body is out of balance, it's telling us that something isn't right in our life and that it needs to be changed. So I see this as not just something to achieve physical health, to like just restore the way our bodies were in the past, but to utilize the experience and the challenge of overcoming a health challenge as an opportunity to like really look at what is not serving in our life, not just physically, but also emotionally. And, when people do this work, when they become at their optimal level of health and vitality, then they have the energy, the confidence, the inspiration to pursue their dreams and become the best version of themselves and self-actualize. So to me, that's like the ultimate reason why I've been doing this work and have never lost a passion for it, is because I see it as a path of self-actualization and transformation.